Last year, Coachella's 102-degree heat literally sent people to the hospital.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Right, it was this massive endurance test just baked into the California desert. But this year, the 125,000 fans arriving for weekend one are walking into, well, recently downgraded but still very real desert thunderstorms.
Talk about a wild pivot.
It really is. You go from dodging heat stroke one year to dodging flash floods the next. But, surviving the actual weather is kind of nothing compared to the physical and political minefields today's headliners are about to walk into.
Oh, absolutely.
So, welcome to the deep dive. Today is Friday, April 10th. 2026, which means Coachella Weekend 1 is officially kicking off today. And our mission for this dive is to really take you inside the logistics of surviving this massive ecosystem. We're going to decode the monumentally high-stakes return of Justin Bieber and examine the intense, often invisible industry pressures that are shaping the biggest musical acts on the planet.
There is so much going on behind the scenes this year.
There really is. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the sheer scale of the rebound we are seeing on the ground right now.
Yeah, the whiplash isn't just meteorological, it's economic. Because if you look back at 2024, Coachella actually saw its slowest ticket sales in history.
Wait, really? The slowest?
The absolute slowest. The industry was kind of bracing for the idea that the massive festival bubble had finally burst. Like people were just tapped out. But then for 2026, the festival sells out its 125,000 person a day capacity in just 3 days.
That is insane.
It's a staggering injection of capital and, honestly, of human density into the Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
And to drive that kind of sudden volume, the festival had to assemble an incredibly heavy-hitting but highly pressurized lineup.
Right, they had to bring out the big guns.
Exactly. I mean, tonight you have Sabrina Carpenter taking the main stage at 9:45 p.m. She's promising to turn the desert into Sabrina Wood for what she's calling her most ambitious show ever.
Oh, the fans are going to lose it.
Oh, for sure. And then closing Sunday, you have Karol G making history as the festival's first ever Latina headliner.
But wait, being a history-making headliner comes with baggage that goes way beyond just putting on a good 2-hour set.
It really does.
Because in the sources we pulled, there's this fascinating look at a recent Playboy interview where Karol G opened up about the intense pressure she's under to make anti-ICE statements. Immigration and customs enforcement.
Right. Yeah.
She said she is, quote, willing to say ICE out, but she's been explicitly warned about the danger of becoming bait. So why is this specific issue such a dangerous tripwire for her? Because, pop stars make political statements all the time.
They do, yeah. But the mechanics of international touring make this incredibly precarious. And we need to be really clear here. We are analyzing this strictly from a logistical and PR standpoint. We are not taking a stance on immigration policy or the politics involved.
Absolutely. Strictly looking at the logistics.
Right. So from a purely operational view, for a global artist, your visa is your livelihood. If an international artist becomes a highly vocal, highly visible antagonist to the very government agencies that control international borders and work visas.
They risk massive retaliatory delays.
Exactly. They become bait for politicians who are just looking to score points by making an example out of a celebrity. The pressure is immense. Fans demand authenticity and political solidarity, but the artist's entire touring infrastructure relies on staying within the good graces of those same border enforcement agencies.
Wow. So you aren't just singing, you are actively doing high-stakes international diplomacy while trying to remember your choreography.
Pretty much.
And while the artists are navigating those invisible political tripwires, the fans are out there navigating physical ones. Because when you put 125,000 people in a field, the desire to get close to these stars creates a very specific, very dangerous physics problem.
It becomes a literal trap.
Yeah, there's this highly active thread on the @Coachella subreddit right now from a fan who is totally spiraling. They're asking how to guarantee a good view for Bieber on Saturday, and they even asked if buying a VIP guest pass would somehow save them from the crush.
Oh, man. The veteran attendees in that thread delivered a very cold dose of reality on that one.
They really did.
They were like, no pass saves you from the physics of a massive crowd. Anywhere within 50 to 100 yards of that main stage is going to be a disaster.
One user literally called it a shit show, and honestly, the mechanics of it sound absolutely terrifying. There's this user named NeatFace50052, and they posted about their experience camping out for 3 entire sets to see Harry Styles back in 2022.
Oh, I read that one.
Yeah, so they got about 20 feet from the rail, Which sounds great, right? But here is how the trap actually works. Lil Baby finishes his set, and a massive chunk of that audience tries to leave, while at the exact same time, a massive chunk of Harry Styles fans tries to surge forward. And in that transition, the density of the crowd crosses this critical threshold.
Yeah, that's the key concept here. It's fluid dynamics. Once a crowd reaches about 6 people per square meter, it stops acting like a group of individuals and literally starts acting like a fluid.
Which means you lose control of your own body.
Completely.
Yeah.
You have no agency. Shockwaves propagate through the crowd. If someone trips 10 feet away from you, that kinetic energy ripples through the mass and just pushes the air right out of your lungs.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Needface 50052 said they were crushed, shoulder to shoulder, completely unable to move their arms for the entire Harry Styles performance. They gave the experience a 0 out of 10.
A 0 out of 10 for Harry Styles. That's wild.
And other users reported identical claustrophobic nightmares during Lady Gaga and Bad Bunny. Actually, at Bad Bunny's set, the density was so extreme that people standing all the way over at different stages had to turn their backs to the music playing in front of them just to watch his set on the distant screens.
That is just crazy to me. It's like trying to get to the front rail is like pressing your nose directly against a movie theater screen. You're technically closer to the star, but you're missing the whole picture.
That was a perfect way to put it.
You can't see the massive lighting rigs, you can't hear the audio mix properly because you're behind the main speaker arrays, and you certainly can't dance.
It defeats the entire purpose of attending a live music event. You trade a sensory experience for mere proximity.
Exactly. Which is why I am officially championing the advice of Reddit user Murphy_Nelson. They pointed out that even though they get artist guest passes, they actively choose to watch the headliners from the way back.
The way back is where it's at.
It really is. The festival builds enormous high-definition delay screens and secondary speaker towers deep into the field specifically for this reason. In the back, you get pristine sound, a cinematic view of the production, and the physical space to actually breathe.
It flips the traditional hierarchy of the festival. The general admission field, way in the back, is the true VIP experience if your goal is to actually enjoy the art.
So for you listening, if you're out there braving the mud this weekend, the back is your sanctuary. And if you aren't going, you have the ultimate setup. You can just watch the official YouTube live streams for every stage from your couch.
Highly recommend the couch.
Right. Bieber is scheduled for 11:25 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday. 0 out of 10 chance of being crushed by fluid dynamics. But, whether you're in the back of the Sahara tent or your living room, the multi-million-dollar question is, after such a long absence, what exactly is Justin Bieber going to do on that stage?
Yeah, because this isn't just the next stack on a standard album cycle. It is a highly scrutinized, incredibly high stakes return to the public eye.
And we've had a few breadcrumbs leading up to this. A few weeks ago, on April 3rd, he played a secret 500-capacity warm-up show at the Roxy Theater in L.A.
Super exclusive.
Very. The marquee just vaguely said, "Tonight only." And it was super stripped down. He's up there shirtless, wearing a vintage TLC Crazy Sexy Cool shirt, doing an acoustic version of Everything Hallelujah with just a couple of guitarists. It felt very much like an artist testing his own legs,
Definitely. And that intimate, controlled environment is the polar opposite of the Coachella main stage. But it really set the tone for what we learned next.
Oh, the leak. We have to talk about the soundcheck leak.
We do.
So Nick Van Steenberg from Love Island USA was apparently hanging around outside the Coachella venue this week and actually managed to record the audio of Bieber's soundcheck.
Which is just incredible access, really.
I know. He posted his reaction, and through that audio, we got a window into the actual set list. And it's this collision of eras. He's blending the massive foundational nostalgia hits like Baby, One Less Lonely Girl, sorry.
The classics.
Right, blending those with the much more mature tracks from his 2025 albums, Swag and Swag 2, like Yukon, Speed Demon, and Daisies.
Bridging that gap is notoriously difficult for child stars. He is actively trying to integrate the teenager who became a global phenomenon with the adult he is today. And the sheer scale of the guest rumors really reflects that ambition.
Oh yeah, the rumors are flying.
Given the early hits on the set list, the industry is betting heavily on appearances from Usher or Ludacris. Plus, his swag collaborator, Dijon, is already booked for a Friday set at the Mojave Stage.
Oh, so the logistics are totally there for a cameo.
Exactly.
But let's look at the mechanics of why this return is so highly scrutinized, because it's not just about a guy finding his rhythm again. Bieber is fighting an incredible physiological battle.
The physical reality of what he has overcome is staggering. People forget he had to cancel his 2022 tour because of Ramsay-Hunt syndrome.
Yeah, that was huge news.
And for those who aren't familiar with the physiology, this isn't just, like, fatigue. It is a neurological disorder that literally causes full facial paralysis on one side.
And for a vocalist, your face is your instrument.
Exactly. Singing at a world-class level requires intense, symmetrical muscular control. It's breath control. It's the micro movements of the jaw to form vowels. It's the embouchure of the lips. When half of that entire system is paralyzed, the mechanical ability to project and sustain pitch is severely compromised.
That sounds terrifying for a singer.
It is. He recently admitted the idea of touring again was, quote, super daunting. It is a massive athletic feat to rebuild that coordination.
And that physical battle is running parallel to a massive cultural shift. We're seeing a fundamental reevaluation of how society treats child stars. With the recent, highly publicized discourse surrounding the Epstein files, the culture has reignited a very dark but very necessary conversation about the systemic exploitation in Hollywood.
It's a completely different landscape now.
Yeah. Bieber grew up in the exact epicenter of the 2010s paparazzi machine. People aren't just looking at him as a pop star anymore. They are looking at him as a survivor of a deeply toxic ecosystem.
The cultural lens has completely shifted. The audience watching him sing Baby in 2026 possesses a very different understanding of what it cost him to perform that song as a teenager. Reclaiming that narrative is a monumental psychological task.
But, reclaiming your narrative means you have to confront your past catalog. And based on that leaked soundcheck, there is one specific track that is setting off major alarm bells for fans and PR managers alike. And that's the inclusion of beauty and a beat.
Oh man, this is the ultimate case study in modern PR crisis management.
It really is.
Because the issue isn't the song itself, right? It's the featured artist, Nicki Minaj. Based on the source material we are reviewing earlier in 2026, Minaj came out as what the sources describe as rabidly pro-NBA. And that political stance triggered a massive, highly publicized fracture within her own fan base.
Right. And again, just applying our strict impartiality rule here, we are not condemning or endorsing Minaj's politics, nor are we judging the fans on either side of that divide. We are looking at this strictly as a mechanical problem for a festival headliner trying to execute a comeback.
The mechanics of the problem are brutal. In the streaming era, a song released over a decade ago doesn't just exist in the past, it exists in the present algorithm. So when Bieber steps on that stage, he faces a massive catch-22.
A total trap.
Yeah. If he plays the original track with Minaj's verse, he instantly imports her 2026 political controversy into his 2026 comeback. In the current cultural climate, simply playing the verse will be interpreted by many as a tacit endorsement.
And the resulting headlines won't focus on his vocal recovery or his artistic evolution at all. They will be entirely consumed by the political backlash.
Exactly.
So here's where it gets really interesting. How does an artist navigate that? Do you just, cut the verse entirely?
Let's see, cutting the verse carries its own risk. If you alter a fan-favorite nostalgic anthem, that omission becomes a deliberate statement in itself. Fans notice the silence. The media writes think pieces about the snub. Either way, the music becomes secondary to the meta-narrative.
Wow. This tension, this desperate desire by the artist to just play the music, crashing into the music industry's absolute terror of unpredictable variables, it really feels like the defining conflict of modern pop. The labels and the festivals want a guaranteed return on investment. They want the risk mitigated, the PR managed, and the product controlled.
Always. And that exact financial math, optimizing for predictable revenue through control, it isn't unique to American pop or Coachella. It is the fundamental law of gravity in the global music industry.
Which actually brings us to a brilliant parallel in our sources today looking at the Bollywood film industry. Specifically, the story of director Mohit Suri and the 2013 blockbuster Ashiki 2.
Oh, this is such a great example. The Ashiki 2 soundtrack was a massive cultural phenomenon, but the legal and professional war required to get it made perfectly illustrates this exact battle between artistic risk and corporate control.
Let's get into it.
So Mohit Suri was directing this film with a new generation of actors, particularly Aditya Roy Kapoor. And Suri had initially recorded the film's soundtrack with KK, who was this legendary universally beloved playback singer.
And from the record label's perspective, KK is the ultimate safe bet. His voice just guarantees a baseline level of sales.
It's pure risk mitigation. But Suri listened to the recordings and realized a fundamental problem. KK's voice carried the emotional weight of the previous generation. It just didn't sonically match the fresh, raw face of his new lead actor. So Suri makes a massive pivot. He begins this exhaustive search and finds Arijit Singh,
who at the time was virtually unknown, right? Just an unproven variable.
Entirely unproven. And the label's risk models immediately flashed red. They were looking at a massive budget film anchored by an uncasted voice. So to compensate for that risk, the label deployed a classic industry mechanism, which is the restrictive contract. They demanded Arijit sign a deal that heavily restricted his future rights and royalties.
Basically saying, we'll take a chance on you, but in exchange, we own the IP and we completely control your career.
Precisely. Yeah. As Suri described it, the label's goal was to hold talent back to control his talent. They wanted a replaceable cog, not a partner. But Arijit, despite being an unknown singer desperate for a break, actually refused to sign the restrictive terms.
Good for him. So what does the label do?
The label triggered their failsafe. They demanded Suri fire Arijit and revert to the original recordings with KK. Go back to the guaranteed ROI.
Go back to the safe bet.
Right. But Suri, along with the music director Mithun, did something almost unheard of. They drew a hard line and threatened to pull their compositions from the film entirely. They risked their own careers and the entire production schedule to protect the unproven, unpredictable talent.
Wow. And the payoff for taking that risk was historic. I mean, the album shattered records. It launched one of the most successful director-singer partnerships in modern Bollywood, and it turned Arijit Singh into a global superstar with massive hits like Tum Hi Ho.
The industry constantly tries to engineer the perfect, controllable product. But cultural longevity, the kind of music that actually defines a generation, requires the exact unpredictability that labels are terrified of.
That is so true. And this raises an important question. If we pull the lens all the way back to the California desert, the industry wants a mirage. The labels in Mumbai want controllable talent contracts, and the organizers of Coachella want safe, controversy-free set lists that don't alienate ticket buyers.
They want the illusion of effortless perfection.
But the perfection is a lie. True art requires the human element, and humans are messy. They get sick, they evolve, they step on political landmines, and they refuse to sign bad contracts. Whether it's a director risking his entire film on an unknown voice, or a global megastar battling physical paralysis and the heavy ghosts of his child's star past to step out onto a massive stage tonight.
You really just can't sanitize the human friction out of the performance, because the friction is what makes it compelling.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to keep this friction in mind. Whether you are currently standing in the Coachella mud waiting for the main stage to light up, or you're planning to log onto YouTube at 11:25 p.m. tonight from the safety of your couch, remember what you are actually watching. You aren't just consuming a heavily marketed product. You are watching human beings navigating immense physical limitations, navigating treacherous geopolitical tripwires, and fighting back against corporate risk models all in real time. You are watching them survive the desert. So what does this all mean for you?
We spent a lot of time today dissecting the mechanics of the comeback. We look at artists fighting their way back to the stage as a triumphant return to form. But consider the environment they are returning to. If an artist is constantly expected to perfectly balance their nostalgic hits with their modern reinvention, while meticulously dodging every cultural and political landmine and satisfying the financial demands of a massive festival ecosystem,
it's an impossible standard.
It is. At what point does a comeback stop being about the artist's personal healing and start becoming just another highly managed product designed to outrun the past?
It makes you wonder who the comeback is really for. Keep your eyes open out there and enjoy the music.